right, boys. You ready to dive in?
Yes.
All right. Give a little bit of intro here.
Disco rave party going over on Nick's screen.
Total disco. You could almost say it's a little strange over there, wouldn't you? Hey.
The strange thing is...
Hey.
That's what the other side looks like.
What side, Nick? Do you know what side he's talking about? What? Nick, it almost looks like you're upside down.
What?
You look a little upside down right now.
I can't see you.
That's really concerning. For you listeners out there, Nick's camera is completely upside down on the video chat here. Nick, come back. Oh, so creepy. Welcome back.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Good to be back from the other side.
From somewhere upside down, clearly.
From the nether.
Okay, enough of the silly puns, right, guys? What are we all here for today, huh? This is a very special episode, I think. I think we've decided.
Yes. This is the Hello Kitty Island Adventure episode, right?
Yes. And it's unfortunate that Matt cannot be here today because that wasn't that his pick.
It was for his horror.
I thought it was for that Halloween episode.
Yeah.
But alas, he's not here. So, guys, I think we should dive into something different. What do you think?
I suppose.
Something of the strange kind? Something with a lot of nostalgia? But you know what? But first, let's introduce the cast for tonight, today, or this morning, whenever you're listening. I am your host, Joe Tweeton. We are short the Matt Johnson, sadly. He was a little under the weather, so could not make it out today. But across the ether, we have a Nicholas Thomas. How's it going, sir?
Pretty dang good.
Yeah.
I'm just excited for the show.
Lots of words are going to be said here today.
There will be. Don't worry.
Don't you worry, guys. We got a lot to say about today's episode. But across the way from Nick...
I'm saving my voice for it.
Good man. Yeah, we have a Lynn Dungeon, sir.
How's it going?
Say hi to all the lovely ladies and peeps and gents in the YouTube and podcast world.
Oh, the gents.
Nano.
There are gents out there, I'm assuming.
Nanu.
Wrong show, guys. Wrong show. All right. Well, that being said, we do have a lot to cover today. I feel a little out of place. Same decade. I feel a little out of place without my red-bearded ginger here to share the space. So you guys are going to have to fill this room up with the spirit of your voice. Can we do that, guys? Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
For shizzle, my nizzle could dizzle.
The uplifting spirit. All right. Anyway, guys, let's. We're gonna give you guys a little bit of as the intro to the YouTube video would permit, and maybe even the theme music you might have heard at the beginning of this podcast. We're going to do a deep cuts review and dissection of a very huge hitting show on Netflix by the name of Stranger Things. Shocker, I know.
It's very strange.
We'll do a little recap of season 1 because Nerdentials here has actually never talked about the show before, only in passing, but we've never gone deep into the show. And then we'll do a spoiler-free review of season 2, and then we'll dive in deep. Spoiler. Sound good, gents?
Spoilers
Sounds
ahead.
fantastic.
Spoilers
but,
ahead.
like they said, if you haven't watched the show, turn this off now.
Yeah, or we'll put a timestamp in for the deep dive portion so you guys can pause it after the basic review. We'll keep it spoiler free. But I'll put in an alert for the spoilers when it hits, so that's when you guys can pause the podcast and go watch 9 hours of Stranger Things. or 17 if you haven't
Yes.
even watched the show to begin with. Which, shame on you if you haven't.
For shame.
Get to the Netflix. Watch the Stranger Things now. Do it now.
Wait, shun the non-believers.
So, guys, I figured let's do a season 1 recap. So, if you guys haven't watched Stranger Things at all, turn this dang podcast off and go watch that, and then come back.
The killer tomatoes invaded the world. Oh, wrong.
No, you know...
I thought that was the meat and potatoes that invaded.
Oh, and on a side note, guys, speaking of meat and potatoes, that I don't know why that reminded me of this, but our 1-year anniversary montage, shameless plug, is on YouTube.
Montage.
On our Nerdentials channel. Go check it out. It's 20
Shameless
plus
plug.
minutes of pure bliss, the best moments and funniest moments of our whole year on YouTube. So go show us some love.
Man, I gotta
Click on that video.
Definitely worth the view. Definitely worth the view.
All right, guys. So
And the listen.
I wanted to give a little bit of just a quick recap on season 1. Y'all ready?
We all ready for this?
All right, here it goes.
Ready for this?
Here it goes. All right. In season 1, when Will Byers suddenly goes missing, the whole town of Hawkins, Indiana, turns upside down. Many people are on the search for Will, including his mother Joyce, his brother Jonathan, his friends Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, and the wily police chief Jim Hopper, among others. A dark government agency, seemingly malevolent supernatural forces start converging over this weird government agency lab thingy. I know I'm fumbling the description here, but basically the whole town, while something starts threatening the town and no one knows really what's going on. There's clearly something more than meets the eye. Oh, come on, guys. No 80s reference? Come on.
No Transformers here.
Anyway,
Samwood Wiki.
in the process of looking for their friend, we meet a girl with a shaved head who is taken in by Mike and affectionately named 11 after her tattooed number on her wrist. Throughout the season, we see she possesses telekinetic abilities and was experimented on by the secret government agency. And
More than just telekinetic, more telekinetic, telepathic.
she
sees visions and
mostly
stuff.
we see she can move things
Yeah.
with her mind, and we do see that she can kind of tap into her subconscious and communicate with things somehow on a subconscious level. And
Through an electromagnetic field.
something to that effect.
And during the first season, there's some definite scanners moments that are worth watching.
Definitely. Yes. Season 1 was littered with 80s nostalgia references. Most people that are listening to this podcast have probably already checked out season 1. It's been out for over a year now, which is why we're diving deep into season 2.
Deep.
So
So deep.
So, having said that, spoiler warning, in case you didn't watch the finale of season 1 for some crazy reason, strange reason, if you will. Will returns from this mysterious place known as the Upside Down. In the final moments, we see them battling this creature that they affectionately named after the D&D creature, a Demogorgon, basically. 11 uses her abilities to basically stop the creature. She, in the final moments of the season, we see she disappears, seemingly lost forever in the realm known as the Upside Down. So that's kind of where the kids are left. They befriended 11, through this crazy adventure of trying to find Will. And that's where the crew is left off with. They're kind of left shaken, not stirred. And having lost their friend 11, right? So That was season 1, guys. But we're here to, and all of us, I think, absolutely were full blown into season 1. Correct? I mean,
Oh yeah,
general quick feelings on season 1. I didn't follow the
season 1 was great.
I didn't. For me, I skipped out on the hype back when it first came out, and I watched it first episode, fell off because a lot of other things came out, and everyone else had already watched it and talked about it, and so I kind of got forgotten about. And then season 2 was coming around the bend, and I'm like, oh man, everyone's gonna be talking about this. I'll give the season 1 another chance. And good lord, I binged that crap in 2 days. I know people have binged it in far faster time, but 8 episodes, 8 1-hour episodes, in a couple days, and I was so in love with the kids. So I was all the more excited to jump into season 2. So let's see. Quick introduction. To the season 2 main cast. I'll list this off, and then we'll give our spoiler-free review of the season as a whole. Sound good, guys?
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. Kicking back.
Just do it
now. Kicking back into this season, guys, we've got Winona Ryder coming back as Joyce Byers. We've got David Harbour returning as the Sheriff in Arms, Jim Hopper. We've got the kids, Will Byers, Noah Schnapp, Millie Bobby Brown as 11, Finn Wolfhard as Mike, Gaten Matarazzo as Dustin, Caleb McLaughlin as Lucas, and let's see. Charlie Heaton as Jonathan Byers, Natalie Dyer as Nancy, and Joe Curie as Steve Harrington. Now, those were most of the main crew from the last season. Let's see.
And then we added some new characters, didn't we?
We did add a handful of new characters, but I kind of want to save the listing of those characters for the deep dive portion. I think it might give away too much plot. So
this one's for Barb.
There's still the
Barb. For Barb.
Randy Havens as the
Clark.
science teacher, Mr. Clark, comes back for this round.
I'm here for you.
Exactly. Thanks, Nicholas. So guys, let's throw it on the table. Nick, thoughts on season 2, spoiler free as you can be.
I liked it better than the first season, actually, which surprised me. Usually when you go into a show that touches on so much of what you saw in the first season, you kind of like, it loses its shock and awe and it's just like uniqueness, but this kept it. And we talk about 80s nostalgia. This was more than 80s nostalgia. This was time travel. This was awesome. But
Total time machine effect.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah. They did everything they could to make everything 80s and took a lot of time and attention to detail. Or as Bill Cosby would say, it's all in the pudding. And they kept everything as solidly based as possible.
Definitely. Lynn, your thoughts, sir? How'd you feel about it?
I definitely have to agree with Nick on the details. That they were, the glue that held everything together was all the little details. And then I got to say the further character advancement, not only just the cast themselves, but the Demigorgon, the advancement in that, and then where that took off was just fantastic.
Yeah.
How things expanded upon the upside down. It was great.
Definitely. My thoughts, guys. Oh, man. With season 1 having been fresh in my head, to me this was. I've kind of gotten some feelings from some people that we'll dive into later, but from what I got out of it, treating it more as a sequel, because that's really what I feel like this was. It was filled with the same. What I feel they did was the Duffer Brothers expanded the scope of what these characters were involved with, but they managed to keep the spirit of these characters completely intact from the previous season. And then again, echoing what Nick said about the time period for this, it's October 1984. I found myself, just because for curiosity's sake, I found myself every time I saw a movie listing or something from that time period, a song, I would just I would look it up. I found myself Google searching to see when songs came out, to see when the movies came out. They kept most of it strongly to accuracy, to like, okay, if we're in 1984, most of the things we saw in that show were just authentic, off the chain. And again, what Lynn said about the progression of where we go in the show with the Demogorgon, or what we know about that creature, and what little we knew about in season 1 about the Upside Down. It was kind of more, it's more fleshed out in the show in this season. And I think a lot of the plot points, without sharing any of the plot points, my feelings on them though they were definitely progressive to lead us into a subsequent season. I think a lot of things were well placed. There were a couple characters in there that we'll get into when we deep dive, they seemed a little shallow maybe, or not as important or necessary to keep us going with the main characters. But on that note, I feel they play a catapulting potential purpose for season 3 and even 4. The guys got to remember, the Duffer Brothers are in this for the long run, not the season by season that we're perceiving in this day and age of streaming, where we can binge our shows. They're looking for the long haul, and we already know from newspapers and articles that they've already signed on to season 3 and 4. So I think we got
3 and 4.
Yeah, 3 and 4 at least. So we have to look at the show from that perspective. And the Duffer Brothers even called this a sequel more than it being a full-blown season. That's why when you go on to Netflix, it says Stranger Things 2 rather than season 2. It's actually said that way because the writers were treating it as a sequel.
But I didn't think of it as a sequel. It was a continuance to me.
That's what a sequel does. To me, okay, like, if we're talking about a trilogy, which was some people were thinking this might have been, we know it's not a trilogy because it's at least a 4-season miniseries through and through. I fully agree with you, Nick. This is a continuation from where we left off. I'm not sure what other people thought this was going to be. Stranger Things actually was initially going to be an anthology series, but because the audience took such heart and fandom for the child actors in this, the Duffer Brothers went ahead and decided, let's continue the story. And Netflix immediately was like, we want you to write season 2. So before season 1 was even aired, they started writing season 2 because Netflix was like, we want to jump on this, keep the same actors in it, because the screen tests were crazy. So going into the launch, people wanted to see more of them. So I completely agree with you. Season 2 is a continuation. Yeah, Lynn?
They needed to get it out quick too, because if they were going to keep the characters in the same age group, for the timeline progression.
Aging is hard in Hollywood. If you trying to, what happened to the Harry Potter series. I mean, he had that awkward growth spurt there in 5 and 6, and then he was like an adult with a beard in the eighth movie by that point. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. By the time it all got out.
But
yeah, they're actually filming season 3 right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course they are. But anyway, in conclusion, guys, I absolutely love season 2, and comparatively to season 1, I do think it improved on everything we got out of season 1. Season 2 improved.
Did you like it more or less than the first?
Well, in analyzing my own words, I would say that improving upon everything, to me, builds a stronger liking to. So I would have to say it was better than the first. The first was its own thing though, because if you look at how they ended season 1, with the way thrillers and horrors kind of play out, they wrote it beautifully enough that they could have left it alone. They could have kind of left us lingering. It could have been a one and done 8-episode miniseries, and they could have just ended it. You know, they defeated the
With a
Demogorgon. Boom, we're done.
Wicked cliffhanger there.
Horrible. I mean, they could have changed that little bit around, but they could have ended it with the Demogorgon being defeated. They didn't have to elaborate further on the Upside Down, but what they did with the Upside Down makes me so giddy happy they did. And I think season 2 was better across the board for all the characters involved. So that's final opinion. I think we all liked season 2 better than.
As a whole package.
Right. We'll break
2.
down the episodes and get into that, but as a whole, we liked it better. All right, guys. Well, here is the point in the show where I am going to insert a spoiler warning.
Warning. Spoiler alert. Warning. Spoiler alert. You have been warned.
Because we're about to deep dive into season 2. Spoilers ahead.
Warning.
So, all right, guys.
Hard cut.
You heard the spoiler warnings. We're about to dive in deep. All right.
We're going in dry.
No more dry, Nick.
Fine. We're going in moist.
Okay, maybe that's not better. Okay.
Yeah, just leave it dry.
Leave it how it was. Never mind.
Just leave it dry.
Okay. All right,
Moist
guys.
makes things so much worse.
Yeah, that's worse. Okay.
Moist.
Okay, guys. Okay. All right. Hard cut. All right. I will absolutely leave that in. All right. Among some of the additional cast, this is part of the spoilers, guys. I warned you. In the opening moments of season 1, we see a mysterious group of kids riding in a van. Well, they're not all kids, but we
Young
see
adults.
Young adults. We see a group of individuals riding a van, being chased by police. That introduces. We briefly see on her wrist the tattooed number 8. So that kind of brings into question what her role will be later in this show. But we're introduced to her character, 8, basically. We later learn her name is Callie. She's played by actress Linnea Berthelsen. Among other characters, shortly introduced into episode 1, we got Dacre Montgomery as Billy. Big asshole that pulls up in a, what was that car, Nick?
That was a Firebird, wasn't it? No, that was Camaro of the 80s, blaring.
Yeah.
Uh,
What was that song, Lynn?
It was Scorpions.
Scorpions, right.
The
Here I am.
Rock You Like a Hurricane.
Rock you like a
Rock You Like a
hurricane.
Rock Me
Hurricane.
Like a Hurricane. And on a side note, guys.
But
oh, yeah?
but
Go ahead.
in and of that wasn't even the actual Scorpions version. It was a cover band done later by
A cover band.
not the Scorpions. Yeah, I'm not sure if they couldn't get the rights to it, to the Scorpions
Yeah.
version, but
Or-
it was Kelly Henson and George Lynch is the cover band.
Or maybe they liked the version better. It was a little rockier.
True, it is. The main guitar though is way further in the background, and I think that might have been what they were going for, just so that hard guitar wasn't right up front when Billy pulled up.
So
Might have been.
We've seen
On a,
Dacre's character
dang it,
somewhere.
Lynn interrupted me, Nick, and I was trying to point out where we've seen Dacre Montgomery. Anyone know? Because for the longest time, I didn't think twice about it. And then someone brought it up to me that he was the Red freaking Ranger in the newest Power Rangers movie. Anyone? Yeah? No? Anyone really notice that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the dude's freaking Australian. I was trying to figure out how to pronounce his first name. It's Dacre, but man, I was like, that's freaking Jason, the Red Ranger.
Yep.
Anyway, we've got his stepsister, Maxine, also known as Max, played by Sadie Sink. We've also got a Mr. Paul Reiser as the mysterious Dr. Owens working at the government facility.
You will remember him.
We might remember him as a younger self, also in the real 80s, in a film known as Aliens.
He played as Burke,
Exactly.
who also worked for the company.
Yeah, he had dark intentions in that film, and nothing was bright about him for sure. Then we've got this private investigator character, Murray Bauman, played by Brett Gelman. Very interesting character. Little
Murray.
he seems a little antagonistic of a kind of a almost a raving journalist about what is it, like secrecy and government agents, what conspiracy. He kind of came off as that kind of a character right in the first episode there. Anyway.
Yeah.
We've got, and like I said, Mr. Clark is by Randy Havens. And then we've got Samwise Gamgee himself. That's right, guys. Straight out of
Or
Lord of the Rings.
Little Mikey from
Bob.
Goonies.
Sorry. More relevant to the time period of this. Yes, the Goonies, Nick. Sean Astin was pulled in for the role of Bob Newby, newfound boyfriend to Joyce. I mean, after the that asshole of a father that Will had got rid of that fool, she finally took on a nice, friendly, down-to-earth boyfriend.
Yeah, I really like this guy.
Yeah, lots of endearing attributes for sure. All right, guys, those are the majority of the newest cast members that are through this show.
It'd suck if Netflix did anything to him.
Huh?
Nothing.
Exactly. I hope not. All right, guys. So I'm going to bust down the plot for you, and we'll break down these episodes as we go on likes and dislikes or what we thought really worked well. All right, guys. So here is the plot. For Chapter 1, Mad Max. We start almost 1 year after the events of the vanishing of Will. We see a quick scene of the psychic girl with a tattoo identical to Eleven's, making her out to be 008, and seems to be working as part of a criminal gang, perhaps. And wasn't it Chicago, Nick, you said?
Chicago.
Right. So, kind of seemingly random scene at the beginning of this show. 8 projects... Santa, what happens is that she's being chased by cops. They go through a tunnel. She seemingly creates a cave-in, and so initially we think, oh, same powers as 11. And then he screeches to a halt so as to not hit the barricade that fell down or whatever, and then all the other cops screech to a halt, creating a small car pileup. And then, like, his partner, the officer's partner, says, "Why'd you stop?" And then he looks back up, and there was no cave-in on the tunnel. So suddenly we're like, ooh, this Miss number 8 has the ability to project images in people's heads, it seems, based on that opening scene. But that's all we get from them. It's only, 30-second scene, and we're left wondering what they're all about. So then we move forward. Back in Hawkins, Will, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas meet a new girl at school known as Max. Affectionately introduced as Maxine by teacher Clark. Immediately, she captures the interest of Dustin and Lucas, while her older brother Billy seems to antagonize Steve in this episode. Meanwhile, Mike and Nancy are still dealing with the losses of 11 and hashtag Justice for Barb. Will has been experiencing quote-unquote episodes or hallucinations of the Upside Down that feature visions of an enormous tentacled creature. So, and this happens while they're at the arcade. What's that, Nick?
And I said not in the hentai way.
Yes, not in the hentai way. Meanwhile, Joyce and Hopper take Will to be seen at the lab by the new head scientist, our Mr. Paul Reiser, Dr. Owens. Later, Hopper goes home to the cabin in the woods at the very end of this episode where he lives with, you guessed it, 11. Maybe you didn't guess it because I honestly didn't see that coming. Who is revealed to still be alive, no longer in the Upside Down, and waffles are at the table, but clearly not as the main meal, as Hopper announces. Remember, those are for dessert. So, guys, what about this episode stands out to you? What kind of interesting things did you get out of this opening to the season?
Well, we actually find out that there's a purpose for the number 11 tattooed. So obviously there's other people in the program.
Right.
And this is the first actual introduction of the other people that were involved. Meaning there's more people out there with powers.
Exactly.
Hopefully we'll see like a telekinetic super power beat down between multiples fighting each other.
Something like that, right? Now, did either of you guys see this coming with, to me, some people said, oh, I always wondered, what about the 10 other experiments before 11? It honestly didn't faze me.
I assumed there was other experiments, but I also assumed with how they were treating 11 in the first one that they were killed off.
Okay, fair point.
I feel like they all won't be there, like the whole chronological order, but there's definitely more out there.
With the introduction of 8, we know there's definitely potentially other survivors that came out of that lab, other than 11. So that's pretty exciting. The introduction of Billy being the asshole, literally, because at the end of season 1, we saw Steve kind of have his own little arc. He went from starting out as the defensive, like there's some reason he's being an asshole to Jonathan, like smashing his camera because he was in photography, getting jealous about his time with Nancy. He just kind of played the stereotypical asshole in high school. And then by the end of the season 1, we see him with a baseball bat lined with nails, beating the Demogorgon in the face. Trying to protect the kids at the time.
Steve's season 1 was intended to be the human antagonist, but they morphed him into something else, and they liked the way they went with it so much that they just kept him in that arc where he was kind of redeeming himself from being the high school bully to who he is at the end of season 1. Season 2, they wanted to bring back that whole aspect of someone
having
someone
a human
physically there. Yeah.
And we'll get into further. We'll get into later episodes further about Steve's arc, but it continues growing, which is nice in this season. Let's see. Nancy dealing with Barb's death. That was kind of, I thought for a minute there they were going for a creepier vibe. When I thought we were going to see more hallucination type things with Barb appearing in Nancy's vision when they were at the library, and seemingly Barb's back was turned towards some books, and then it was a very creepy vibe for a minute, and then she turns around and it's a completely different girl. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I thought we were going to see more of that, and we kind of didn't get more of that.
A lot of that reaction there with Barb and the whole thought that she's gone, and there's been little whispers around town. Harkens back to kind of Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yes, the Nancy name.
They kind of paid homage to that. Yeah.
I find it great that everybody in town still thinks that Barb's alive.
Yeah.
At this point,
it's such a sad,
they're still searching for her.
Misleading hope.
No, and the introduction.
You gotta have that faith.
Yeah, the introduction of Max wasn't actually first at the school. Right in the beginning, when you first see the kids, they're all getting quarters, scrambling to go to the arcade.
Yeah,
where they're playing a 1983 game Dragon Lair.
Yeah,
yes.
The animation on that was crazy.
Yeah, it was done by the artist Bluth.
Yeah, Don Bluth,
most known for Secret of Nim.
Secret of Nim,
which would have been at the same time.
An American Tail.
But
sorry.
the kids all are talking about this, and they're like, "Yeah, at least I have the high score on Dig Dug." And then the new character that they also included, I forget his name, but he runs the arcade. He's like, "No, you don't. You've been dethroned," type thing.
Yeah.
And they look over there, and they'll run over there, and they see the name Mad Max on like these games. His name is shoved down, and it just has Mad Max at the beginning, and they're all wondering who Mad Max is.
Right.
Quick little tidbit. This is actually a mistake on their part. The Dig Dug game originally, you couldn't put more than 3 characters, so it could never have happened that way.
How does that work?
Yep.
Like you could never have more than 3 characters. What on the scoreboard?
The high score page, just like most arcades back in that day, you could not do more than 3 characters.
Oh.
So they gave you like first initial, middle initial, and then last initial.
Oh, yeah. No, that's true. 100%. Yep.
And then another flub was also in the first episode. When you see the kids first in classroom, they're sitting in Mr. Clark's classroom, and it pans across the front where Clark's talking, and you see a periodic table to the left of the teacher. There's actually the current periodic table. So a lot of those elements weren't found till 1994.
Almost 10 years later.
There's about 10 of them on there. Nine elements on there.
9 elements that weren't supposed to be
And then if you
discovered.
look to the right of him, you see a picture and a poster of the Challenger space shuttle, which didn't launch and blow up till 1985.
Yep.
Hardcore nerds at the table, guys. If in case you didn't know, very cool facts.
I've watched it 5 times.
Good God, dude! Did you binge it each time, like just straight through in one night?
That's the only way to do it.
I had time to
I
watch
gotta
this
say
once.
that there is one other flub up, and it's when Jim's going to the station. They play "Just Another Day" by Oingo Boingo, and that was 1985
Oingo Boingo.
release. Right
And
there.
we're all in the time period of October of 84.
October
right now.
84.
84.
And
so it was a whole year early.
Well, and like I said in my review, guys, I was very curious about how accurate to the time period, and for the most part, they did lock a lot of the references down to the right year.
Yep.
Well, you could only do so much with that, and then there's certain things that are just going to skip out that they're not even going to think of, like the periodic table. That's
I know you don't really.
only very few people would actually know that.
That periodic table wasn't a pop culture thing, so it's okay to see that kind of thing slide by as far as not being 100% accurate. But they got everything else down: the cars, the music, the movies. Opening scene of above the movie theater, the Terminator, which came out in '84. I cross-referenced when I saw that.
Came out 2 weeks after that, topped the box offices in '84.
2 weeks after what?
2 weeks after the starting date, October 26th.
Oh, so you're saying... Wait, hold on. So the show starts off on October 26th, and the Terminator didn't come out till 2 weeks after?
No. I'm saying from the beginning, when you actually see the Terminator's thing.
Oh.
It's a proper time frame that they have that showing.
Oh, okay. It's not a flub. You're just saying it smashed the box office within those first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. What else? Were there any other references in in episode 1?
There was, actually. When Will's talking with the doctor.
Oh, okay. Real quick. Jumping to that point, guys, because that's kind of the tail end of the episode. He starts having those episodes, like those visions of the Upside Down, and Will doesn't know what to make of it. Right in the arcade, that very first beginning of the episode, he walks out of the arcade and sees this storm, this beastly storm off in the distance, and all the boys are like, "What, Will?" They go grab him, "Are you okay?" kind of thing, and they bring him back in, and he kind of ignores it, but eventually gets to a point where his mom, Joyce, and Hopper decide to take him into Paul Reiser's character, Dr. Owens, to get him looked at least, or evaluated, because it's related to his disappearance last year. So you were gonna say another flub or a reference that took place around that?
No,
with Will?
there's a lot of Easter eggs and stuff with going on here. Like they made a reference to E.T. The doctor asked him what's his favorite candy,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he says Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces, nod to E.T. himself.
But yeah, you see a lot of Easter eggs throughout this whole series. It's actually really cool.
So overall, guys, was this a decent introduction in your mind as far as the episode as a whole?
Yeah, you get reintroduced to the characters, where they're at, how they're reacting to what happened before. You actually see little snippets of the cover-up that happened from the first season. And it ties you in, so it's like, okay, this is what happened, and this is where we're going.
Yeah, it was a very small recap for season 1, really.
Yeah. But it really didn't need it. It did a really good job of... it didn't need much more than that, because it did a really good job of tying it all in.
Right.
Hey, I've got another flub up. So you know when there's that scientist that's listening to his Walkman,
Yeah.
he's actually listening to a 2016 track on his Walkman.
He's listening to a what?
A 2016 track. It's called "Every Other Girl" by the Prehistoric Wolves.
Wow.
that wasn't released until 2016.
It's a bit out of time, huh?
Yeah.
Nice pick on that. How'd you guys feel about the Hopper and 11 reveal in the cabin at the end there?
It kind of alluded to what you saw at the end of season 1 with Hopper leaving the waffles in the box in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're right. There's a little bit of an indication there at the end.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was kind of. It was a little surprising, but like, oh, interesting. But I kind of liked it. Like Hopper's kind of taking on this fatherly figure and kind of protecting her and sheltering her, taking him in under her wings. So I kind of like that. It's kind of all we got out of that scene initially.
Oh yeah.
But all right, right. So let's jump into chapter 2 then.
Trick or treat.
Trick or treat, freak. So the episode opens up in flashbacks. 11 manages to escape from the Upside Down through these flashbacks, but is forced to remain hidden in the woods to avoid government agents. So we kind of see her on the run for a little bit. Kind of we start seeing a little bit of backstory on, okay, like how did Hopper get in contact with her, and it's still unfolding. We didn't quite see the connection yet, but we see, okay, well, she got out. And it opened up right literally moments after the event, like after they cleared out of the high school. The the authorities were interviewing the kids, interviewing Mike, asking him questions, that kind of thing. It literally happened. She got out of the school through a hole in the wall. We kind of learned in that moment that 11 is able to reopen holes, and kind of to get out, seemingly pretty easily. Then we go back to the present. The kids prepare for Halloween. Cue in the nostalgia, guys.
Oh man.
11 asks to trick or treat, but Hopper insists that she needs to remain hidden. He's just doing that.
This was another.
Oh yes, this with where did it happen right in that moment? She threw on the ghost outfit.
Yep, she was wearing the sheet ghost outfit. It was kind of paying homage to both E.T. and Winona Ryder in Beetlejuice.
Yeah, and I know the E.T. reference because that was literally they threw a white sheet over E.T. Mm-hmm. It also kind of briefly references Michael Myers' Halloween, where he throws the white sheet over his head right before he murders his sister.
Yep.
So then moving forward, 11 asks, but Hopper wants to keep her hidden. Hopper investigates when pumpkin patches all over town suddenly start rotting. Nancy wants to tell Barb's parents the truth about her death, but Steve says that it's a bad idea and that the government agents might come after them if they told anyone the truth. Instead, they attend a Halloween party where Nancy gets drunk and pretty much berates Steve until he leaves. In her drunken stupor, basically says that their relationship is shit. This is bullshit. She just repeats that over and over again, to where he kind of takes it personally. He doesn't really realize that she's that drunk. But we're kind of honest in our most drunken moments, aren't we, gents? So it unfolded that way. And then Jonathan takes Nancy home. Meanwhile, Mike, Will, Dustin, and Lucas go trick-or-treating. Later,
Obviously dressed as the Ghostbusters.
all dressed up as the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And another throwback, they're startled by Maxine jumping out at them wearing nothing other than the Michael Myers mask.
Yeah, during this Halloween episode, we see a lot of cool costumes. You see the Michael Myers. You see Jason Voorhees, Ghostbusters. You see Billie Jean Michael Jackson. You see Pac-Man walking down the street.
Yeah.
You see a lot of cool little references like that. The bad guy kid from Karate Kid. He was wearing the Cobra Kai dojo costume.
Yeah.
They were all over the place. Will goes, Jonathan goes up and talks to one of this girl that's dressed up, and he's like, "Oh, from Kiss, right?" And she just kind of like gives him a look like, "You're stupid," where she was trying to be Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshee.
Yeah, exactly.
British invasion.
But during this adventure out trick-or-treating, Will has another episode. And in short, ends up telling Mike about his visions. Mike admits that he still is trying to contact 11. So basically, Mike and Will kind of confide in each other. They're kind of the major outcasts in the group of outcasts, I suppose, where they kind of lean on each other for support. 11 tries to contact Mike using her powers, but is unsuccessful. And this is kind of another glimpse of seeing her use her telekinesis, her mind abilities, to try to reach out to him. And then we kind of end the episode with Dustin returning home after trick-or-treating, and he finds a strange creature in his trash can.
Yeah, that Dustin finding the critter in the trash can mirrors Dan Aykroyd's character in Ghostbusters finding Slimer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They kind of have that interaction. Yeah.
And like I was talking with Nick, they even overlay the freaking Ghostbusters theme, the Ray Parker Jr. Right over the top of it.
They straight up pulled that.
Like, because they do the instrumental version at the beginning when all the kids are getting their costumes on and stuff, and then right there at the end when Dustin opens up the trash can, they actually have the full lyrical version, which is it's perfect for right there when he kicks it open.
Sweet nostalgia. Was it the beginning of this episode that they went to school in their costumes and no one else was?
Yeah, it was the beginning of that episode.
Did you guys ever experience seeing kids do that or not do that? Man, because I don't recall that being a thing so much, but it made for hilarious, comical statements.
No, we didn't dress up for school in costumes. We just played tricks on the teachers.
Minus the treats?
Yeah, no, they were dirty tricks. Like my brother hollowed out an apple.
Ooh.
And yeah.
Oh man. Super glue and all the...
Yeah, we're not going to say what he filled it with.
What did you guys think about the fight between Nancy and Steve, and Jonathan kind of picking up the friend role, I guess, more than not, because Nancy was so drunk she didn't remember who took her home.
Wait, I say not the friend role, but the opportunist role.
I agree.
He saw a window. And he took it.
But I actually don't think that's how he was looking at it, though.
No, that's true. He was looking at it through the friend zone.
Yeah, well, I mean, the way they've written this character, I think he, even in season 1, he always had a fondness for her, and definitely he was attracted to her. But I think because of his social status, I think he felt too out of place to even try. So I don't think that ever crossed his mind, at least back in season 1. And that's one thing I appreciate that the Duffer Brothers did with season 1, is that they didn't go there with that cliche, kind of the outcast, down in the dumps kid that gets kicked over and everything, befriends the pretty girl in school, and then makes it. And we'll see a little.
They still kind of alluded to it.
Oh yeah, I know, but they didn't jump into it that early on, and I kind of appreciate the fact that they didn't jump into what would be easily assumed to happen, the trope or cliche.
Yeah. I mean, hey, now we're only at episode 2. Things could get a little dicier as we go.
Exactly.
But in that first season, Jonathan still,
It-
being the outcast, still beats the crap out of Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
Oh man, there were some good moments, and I know we'll get into this in a minute, but man, I just really hope next season we get like a hashtag Justice for Steve moment of him kicking someone else's ass, because we'll get into that in the next couple episodes here, or towards the end of the season, but.
Yeah.
Like the last episode?
Yeah, we'll visit that. So I'm jumping ahead. But so anyway,
Chapter 3.
what did you get, but real quick, concluding thoughts?
Oh, wait.
What?
I gotta say, this episode right here had a couple of good songs in it that I wanted to kind of touch and make sure that people knew that they were in here, but like Wango Tango by Ted Nugent. It's in this one when Billy's complaining about how he had to move here and take care of Max. He's complaining to Max in his car, and Wango Tango is playing in the background.
Oh man, yeah.
And then another one is Shout at the Devil at the Halloween Party. That's Motley Crue right there. You got that one going, and then what is it? Islands and Stream by Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
That is playing. That's playing when Bob and Joyce are dancing in the living room.
As Dracula.
Yeah.
Which pays another homage to one of Winona Ryder's roles.
There you go.
In Bram Stoker's Dracula, she played, what's her name? Mina.
Yes. There.
Very nice.
Yeah, but I mean, and then they also had, what was it, Duran Duran going in there at one point? The Girls on Film. That was playing during this episode.
Now, Lynn, would you agree that the producers and the Duffer Brothers did a fairly decent job of picking songs, especially songs with lyrics that really spoke to the moments, to the moments occurring in those scenes?
I'd say most definitely. I mean, the songs that they did use were very situational, and the situations that they put them in fit, and that makes them work. It didn't seem tacky. You know what I mean? Like they could have been.
They could have just gone for the hits, but they kind of very carefully placed them in spots that literally were kind of like classic throwbacks to watching movies where there's a romantic scene and it's literally speaking to that moment,
Exactly. And I mean, like I'd say our generation wouldn't pick up on the Dolly Parton or the Kenny Rogers as much, but definitely for those, the people who lived it, that Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers really hits a chord.
Right.
Because at some point they lived through it and they'd recognize that song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like with the Ghostbusters theme, where they did just the instrumental at the beginning with the kids, and then when it counted, when Dustin was flipping like Nick said, when he flipped the garbage can lid, when they actually hit shoot with the lyrics, it gave you those goosebumps of like, oh man.
Yeah, dude. And that's a perfect segue. I wanted to ask you guys, what were your thoughts when I guess it wasn't until the opening of the following episode that we saw what was in that trash can. But I
Yep.
guess that leads me into chapter 3, the Pollywog. All right, guys, we're jumping into chapter 3 now. There's a few plot points, but let's. I just wanted to get your guys' question when we finally saw that little critter. What did you guys initially think? Did you guys immediately assume it to be what it ends up being, or were you curious at the time?
I know what. Oh, go for it, Nick.
I was very curious. I didn't know what it was going to end up being.
Yeah, I didn't immediately assume it was going to be what it turns out to be. I was more on the curious side at that time.
I know when Robin and I saw it, she had one opinion and I had another, and hers was the spot on one, and mine was kind of a, oh sweet, there's going to be another creature from the Upside Down, but really, she was right when she said that it was what it was.
Well, you jumped right into it being from the Upside Down, though.
True.
And I assumed that from the get-go, too. I didn't know what it was going to be, but let's kick off the plots for 3 real quick.
There was another flub. I don't know if it was from the episode or the episode before, but they were all sitting down to dinner, and they had chicken. It was definitely a
KFC.
freaking product placement from hell. But that's the issue. KFC was called Kentucky Fried Chicken. They did not come up with the moniker KFC until 1991. And Dustin says, "I love KFC."
Oh, snap.
That's a good one to bring up.
Actually, that is in this episode because Nancy and Steve go and visit Barb's parents.
Okay.
And that's when they open up the bucket of KFC. So let's jump into the plot, guys. The episode starts off with additional flashbacks where Hopper finds 11 in the woods and sets up his grandfather's hunting cabin as a place for her to live. In the present, Bob, played by Sean Astin, Joyce's boyfriend, encourages Will to stand up to his fears. We'll dive into that little plot point next. Sorry. Nancy persuades Jonathan to help her on a mission to tell Barb's parents the truth. Hopper then asks Dr. Owens to investigate the pumpkin rotting incident because there's clearly something going on here in the town of Hawkins. All the farms in a certain radius are starting to rot for no apparent reason. Dustin tries to learn more about the strange creature he found, a small slug-like animal that he names D'Artagnan, but he ends up calling D'Artagnan, but he calls him Dart for short, and shows it to the other kids at school, specifically his buddies.
The group, the core.
Will describes his hallucinations, and they conclude that Dart is from the Upside Down. 11 leaves the cabin to look for Mike. She sees him arguing with Max and mistakes him as flirting. Joyce discovers an image of Will's vision on the video camera. I need to break a couple of these things down because I'm kind of skipping through too fast real quick. 11 leaves the cabin and discovers Mike and Maxine at the school, and she's just kind of circling around, talking to Mike about joining the group, circling around him while on her skateboard. 11 sees this through a window. She doesn't make her presence known yet, but she immediately gets jealous, thinking that they're connecting together. And 11 makes Max fall on her butt off her skateboard, and then quickly 11 disappears and runs away. And it was I don't know what happened. But in that moment, Mike kind of suspects something, because he knows that she couldn't have just fallen off the way she did, as quote-unquote apparently skilled as Max is on the skateboard. Because the boys were oohing and awing at the beginning of the season when they first saw her on her skateboard, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then, moving forward to the end of this episode, Joyce, through a conversation with Bob about Will getting bullied and that he had a camera with him while he was trick-or-treating, discovers an image of Will's vision on the video camera, something staticky, very, very creepy-like, that she sketches out really quick, and it ends up matching a picture that Will draws of this weird tentacle shadow creature, right?
That's the one where she lays it on the TV.
Yeah,
isn't it?
she places a piece of paper over the paused videotape on the screen, traces it out, and it resembles the same image as the one that Will drew.
But doesn't she have to call? That's where she calls Bob while he's
At
working
Radio
at
Shack.
Radio Shack.
Yeah. She calls Bob at
To
Radio
ask
Shack
how
to
to
ask
use
him how to
the-
connect the tape player to the
Yeah.
TV. And then at the very end of this episode, we get Dart escapes, and then through hearing the sound, that screeching sound, it triggers another hallucination from Will. And then Will follows Bob's advice and confronts the shadow monster during this illusion. So back to that scene, I guess we can dive into that. The end of the scene, the tentacle monster doesn't back down and forces his tendrils into Will's face. And that's kind of the major cliffhanger of that episode. Now, back to that scene. Let's dive into a little bit about Bob Newby's character, Sean Astin.
He tries to do so good.
He's so kind-hearted, and the Duffer Brothers.
But he gives the most horrible advice.
Yeah, the worst.
But something interesting to this, we'll bring this up at a later time. But let's just talk about the moment at hand. Yeah, he talks. He's trying to connect with Will in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
in this moment, too, you're talking about the Duffer Brothers. They're a big Stephen King fan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they hail to the king here. The story that he tells is about Bulbo, the clown, who tries to give him a balloon and terrifies him. Uh-huh. And he even mimics the voice. You know what they're paying homage to? Matt, if you were here, this would be just for you. This is homage to Stephen King's It.
Yes.
He's talking about Bulbo with the balloons.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so,
Because he grew up in Maine.
yeah, so in that scene, Bob is telling Will that you need to just confront your fears, and he says, I told Baldo, go away. And then he claims that after that, his nightmares were gone, and he didn't see that freak anymore in his dreams. And he's just trying to connect with Will, and Will unfortunately takes that to heart at the end of the episode. And this crazy tentacle shadow creature comes at him, and Will runs initially and then decides, I'm going to take that advice.
Turn around and
I'm going
face
to
it.
confront my fears. And he does.
And I may have been premature when I said it wasn't hentai-like.
Yeah, because this thing goes straight into his eyes, ears, and mouth and nose, just straight up. Just kind of like possessing him with a cloud of black smoke. It was crazy.
It's an interesting word to use.
What word?
Possessing.
Possessing him with black smoke, or going into his body. I mean, that's what it looked like anyway,
Yeah.
I gotcha. Anyway.
He's trying to avoid the word rape, Nick.
That's not what I was saying.
He's also trying to prevent me from alluding to the end result of the season. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Possessing and all that craziness. Anyway. So, like with the pumpkin patch and Hopper, Dr. Owens just says, oh, it's nothing, it's no big deal. One of the farmers claims that, my neighbor farmer must have poisoned my crops. But then, Harper, through investigation, starts realizing, no, because everyone's crops, we start seeing a pattern that around the lab, it extends in a circular radius. So, making that lab kind of the central point, if you will. And we're kind of like, dun, dun, dun.
And you also see more of this dart creature.
Yes.
I gotta say probably my favorite scene of this episode is when freaking Dustin introduces him to like Lucas and them, and he opens up the lid on the little shoebox and he grows the two legs, and Dustin like barfs a little in his mouth and swallows it.
Oh yeah. He went from what they thought was a tadpole to like a four-legged frog all of a sudden.
Yeah. And Lucas gives him that look like, did you just Ralph?
Well, there's the whole thing right in the beginning. This is another kind of Easter egg where they point out like Gizmo from Gremlins.
Oh yeah.
Because there's the rules. You kind of see they're staying up late. He's feeding them. He changes into something else after he feeds them after midnight. The creature tries to stay out of the light. He doesn't give it water. If you look in there, there's no water.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
that's
great
great.
references. Were there anything other standout flubs or references you guys wanted to point out for this one?
This is right after the thing with the trick or treating night. The night before, Hopper made a promise they'd be back at a certain time. And this episode, isn't this the episode they have that big fight?
This is a whole lot of flashbacks. Is this episode, and then there's a whole lot of Nancy and Jonathan, where Jonathan explains to Nancy why he did what he did.
In the next episode, the argument actually ensues, like the violent argument that happens after he broke his promise. So anyway, while going and investigating the pumpkin patch, towards the end of episode 3, he realizes he had promised that Eleven that he would be back at the cabin and that he would let her do something Halloween with him, watch a movie, eat candy, that kind of thing.
He'd come home with candy, and on the way home, he stops the little kid and buys his candy from him.
Yeah, well, tries to, but the bottom line is he realizes he's super late and it's late at night. And that doesn't go over so well in the following episode. So,
in this episode, there is a very definite foreshadowing that you don't see. When Dustin walks in the house with the box with the pollywog inside the box, the cat. Always listen to the cat. The cat just goes crazy and hisses. It was kind of reference to the hiss that the cat made in Aliens.
It was like almost the same kind of cat, too. I saw a picture of that from Aliens. So, Chapter 4, Will the Wise. So,
going back to the D&D references.
Back to some D&D stuff. So,
I love the D&D.
Quick layout of this episode. Will wakes up to the concern of Joyce and his friends. Joyce takes Will home but finds him acting strange, and he starts drawing scribbles on numerous pages. Now this kind of gets a little crazy in the episode. Joyce calls Hopper for help, and together they discover the scribbles line up, forming a vast network of vines. Hopper recognizes an area and leaves without telling Joyce, seemingly. Nancy and Jonathan are caught by undercover lab agents when they try to contact Barb's mother. Meanwhile, Dr. Owens shows them, after they're caught, he shows them the portal to the Upside Down, admits Barb died from it, and that they want to prevent other governments from learning of it. When they are released, Nancy reveals she recorded Owens' admission. For what that's worth. Lucas tries...
Which didn't make sense to me because it was a gigantic tape recorder. Right. Do these security guards not check anything?
Clearly.
She couldn't have had that in a Buick.
Yeah, when they are released, Nancy reveals she recorded Owen's admission.
It's a tumor.
Meanwhile...
It's not a tumor.
Meanwhile, Lucas tries to get closer to Max, but Billy warns Lucas to stay away. Dustin finds that Dart has broken out of his cage and devoured his pet cat. Rest in peace, Muse. And
I gotta say this. The little creature outdid the alien. Because if you remember from the movie, the one thing the alien could never get was the cat.
Didn't this time.
Yep.
Yeah, anyway, so... devoured his pet cat and a baby version of the Demogorgon monster. is what appears to be eating the cat. Oh my goodness.
So he molted again and became bigger.
Yep, he got bigger. We should have known.
When he walks into the room and he's looking for the critter, he just follows this trail of blood and slime, and he finds it up over the back of the couch, and that's the cat being munched on. And then the creature looks up at him and spreads open that mouth, that
fly trap type mouth. Yep.
Yeah.
From the season 1 guys. Elsewhere, 11, after an argument with Hopper, finds Hopper's research into her biological mother, Terry Ives, and tries to contact Terry with her powers. Hopper digs into one of the tainted fields and finds a tunnel leading to the Upside Down. So there's a handful of interesting things that happen on the back half of this episode. What stood out for you guys in this that was the most interesting for the progression here?
This is kind of another point of the progression with 11 and Hopper. Their relationship is very unique in this, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of beautiful actually. Hopper is, you could almost see him kind of replacing the daughter he lost with his affections that he shows towards 11.
Oh yeah.
And he's like super overprotective.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And she's taken it as him being mean and untrustworthy, and just looking at it from our outside point of view, it's him doing everything he can do to protect her. Even though sometimes you can honestly and obviously tell that it's not the correct approach. But
And at the same time, he doesn't understand as much of her adolescent perspective that she misses her friends, and she's getting bored in that place.
That's what it is that, like what Nick said, is he's trying to protect her from the mistakes he's made or he knows that can be made and keep her safe, you know? And like you're saying, it's just, he doesn't get it. She wants to live life and try to learn from her own mistakes, but he's trying to protect her from the mistakes she would make.
Exactly. And I mean, stumbling across her biological mother's files, that was fairly interesting.
And that was a big point of the fight too, because Hopper's been telling her that her mother's dead.
Yeah, and didn't she in this episode throw out "You're just like Daddy"? Papa, sorry, you're just like Papa. I'm confusing Logan with. But yeah, Papa, and how he was trying to do the same thing, always telling her, I'm just protecting you, while they were experimenting on her in the lab. Always keeping her locked up.
Yeah, there was an actual line in there in the fight that happens, and she looks at him and yells, "You lie!" And he says, "No, I protect."
Yeah. Yeah. And then the end of this episode, it's just like Hopper digs a hole where he thinks like a special spot might be, leading to this vine network of pictures, and
he gets down
climbs down into the tunnel. And at that moment, as audience members, we're like, dude, go get someone else, go get some help. Why are you going down there alone?
Because it's Hopper. He's a badass. Right? He doesn't need anybody else.
Oh man, I know, but it was just it's one of those tropey moments where they do that to make you make you feel that way. You're like, come on, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, guys, or shall we jump into 5?
I do have to say on this one, the soundtrack for this episode was very limited. It had more original score than it did actually have, secondary score. Like the only real big track that a lot of people would pick up on would be Yeah, that one, and this is Radio Clash by The Clash.
Yeah. There was the big scene when there was a flashback with them cleaning the cabin to set it up for 11. And while they're doing it, they put on the radio, and Jim does his dance, which is now a meme.
Yeah.
And but it's Jim Croce's "You Don't Mess Around with Jim."
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
during this time, he also laid out the 3 rules. But it was during the flashback that all this is happening. Yeah.
Right.
And when you said that she found the her,
Oh, hey,
go ahead.
no. Hey, the Don't Mess with Jim was last episode.
Oh, we just skipped it. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
Yeah.
Was that in the,
But
was that in the same flashback though?
Yeah, it was the same.
You
flashback.
know, it's the same flashback that Nick's talking about. It was just in episode 3, not 4.
Ah. Okay.
And then
But
yeah, go ahead.
It was that was a good one right there. That definitely a good soundbite to bring up, and the fact that they paired it with that scene right there was it like we're saying situational songs, and it was very situational and it fit.
Yeah, it was a perfect pick.
And there's this whole thing with when 11 found all his information into what he was researching into her mother. It's underneath the cabin. Now this scene they pay tribute to Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, because she throws open that basement door, and it's almost an exact scene of when they find that basement door in the cabin, in that, because it's the same view from down from underneath.
Yep.
And it just
Yeah.
has that whole feel.
Lots of scene pulls.
And like I'm saying, the original score for this one made up for the lack of the older like 80s
the hits, the 80s hits, yeah.
The hits, because they were definitely like when Jim was looking into that gate to the Upside Down, that score right there, that original score was powerful.
And creepy.
I don't mean to nerd out on it, but it like I'm saying, it fit.
It was mood setting, and Lynn, this is a nerd show.
I know. I know.
All right, guys, let's swing on into chapter 5.
Dig Dug.
Dig Dug, and that's where
And it mirrors.
Go on, Nick.
And it mirrors the. I was gonna lead off right exactly where I was. No, this was the Will wakes up. He was still standing in the middle of that field with the tentacle.
Oh, okay. Sorry, erase all of that. Future editing, Joe.
Especially that part about rape, Joe.
I'll delete that part.